No, this is a huge Democratic Party problem. If you look at Democratic cities, they are terribly run. They have incredibly high taxes. It is impossible to build, so the cost of housing. Let me finish. I'll give you a chance. That cost of housing is crazy in places like New York and Chicago.
Watch the dramatic soundtrack and hear the gasps from the CNN control room in real time when Bill Maher achieved the unthinkable by getting CNN's SHREDS Zachary to acknowledge that parts of Trump's policies were beneficial for America. It felt more like a live comedy roast with Maher dropping truth bombs while Zachariah clumsily laughed at the wreckage his own network helped build. Yes, it was glorious. Let's dive right into this rare and hilarious dose of media truth. But first make sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss more epic takedowns, spicy commentary, and the moments that leave the mainstream media sweating. Zachary squirmed, laughed, and finally waved the white flag to reality, unintentionally stepping into real journalism for a moment.
Trump wants to sell a visa. You get permanent residency. By the way, I looked this up, we are hardly the first country to do this. Doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. But, you know, I remember...
Yeah, we actually have a version of it. It's called, I think it's called the EB-5 or something like that. So it's fine to do it. I actually think maybe it's because I'm, very patriotic. I think 5 million, we should be charging 20 million, or, American citizenship is worth more than that.
This one really had me do a double take, Zachariah. I'm not sure about you. Indeed, SHREDS Zachary of CNN, the network that essentially plans hourly Trump-bashing marathons, acknowledged the wisdom of Trump's gold card permanent residence scheme. I'm referring to a storyline twist. From border fences to burger options, this individual has dragged almost every Trump action through the dirt. But the worst part is that it gets much better. In addition to giving out rare credit, Zachary went one step further and jokingly suggested raising the already outrageous $5 million price tag for the gold card to an even more astounding $20 million. That's right, he essentially said, if you're rich and want to live in America, you're going to have to feel it. From someone who often gives talks on diversity and fairness, this was a rich pun with a lot of meaning. It was like watching a magician pull confessions out of a hat. Bill Maher didn't just stumble into that moment. Rather, he set the tone by casually saying, hey, this one's actually smart.
Now you're speaking Chicago language. I'm for it, but it's part of a bigger package on immigration reform. It's been 42 years since the last one. So I'm not against it, but it's part of a whole package.
Now, let me just pause here for a moment because I should have said this earlier. Bill Maher is sneakily brilliant. Seriously, the man has Jedi-level skills when it comes to drawing out the truth. And then, like political titans, they followed his lead. Rahm Emanuel, the ultimate Democrat insider, even jumped in and acknowledged that it had been a while since a policy like that was put forth. Rahm makes you wonder what his party was doing during all those years in power. Were they simply too preoccupied with virtue signaling to come up with anything that actually made sense? Now, watch Rahm Emanuel criticize his own party's woke policies.
There is a general rule. I had this when I was mayor. Safe streets, strong schools, stable finances. Focus on those three things and your city's going to be fine. We've gone through 5 years where people became way too permissive of culture. They were all, which is why everything's locked up at Walgreens and CVS, and that is a disaster.
Yeah.
And I'll say this about our schools. I don't want to hear another word about the locker room. I don't want to hear another word about the bathroom. You better start focusing on the classroom.
The left seems to be turning on itself, and to be honest, it's sort of amusing to watch for some background so you're not just diving in headfirst in real time. Bill Maher revealed a shocking statistic. Why does the mayor of Chicago have such a low approval rating of 6.6%? That's not just awful. You should certainly step down and reconsider your poor life decision. Rahm Emanuel, a former mayor and no stranger to political spin, didn't even try to sugarcoat it. Instead, he threw his own party under the bus with a smile. He claimed that the left had become so fixated on meaningless culture war battles that it was making the entire movement appear ignorant and downright poisonous. Then came the tirade, and it was amazing. He essentially begged the woke crowd to stop making every lavatory and locker room into a battlefield and perhaps return their attention classrooms reading mathematics, the fundamentals wrapped in a mid-show microphone. It was an uncommon burst of rationality. Give up the irony. What millions of Americans have been screaming for years had to be spoken by a Democrat burning his own side on HBO, and Rahm wasn't finished yet. In fact, he was only warming up.
We had the worst reading scores for 8th graders in 30 years. And nobody, not a governor, not a mayor, not a president, not a secretary of education is talking about it. We're all wrapped up. Look, in 7th grade, if I known that I could have said the word they and got in the girls' bathroom, I would have done it. Okay, this is, we literally are a superpower. We're facing off against China with 1.4 billion people, and 2/3 of our children can't read 8th grade level.
Even while the whole conversation is humorous, trust me, it is also quite depressing because we have gotten so lenient and anxious to avoid upsetting anybody that we have let a small group of disillusioned idealists to dictate what is right and wrong. Under the guise of progress, these activists have selectively cited studies and promoted dubious research to support their invasive, frequently inappropriate agendas, such as calling for women's lavatory and locker room access. Let's face it, we've completely abandoned our common sense and core beliefs and blindly accepted the ideological Kool-Aid. The bright lining is that things that were once clear, like ensuring women's safety and privacy, are now deemed contentious and done so only to silence the loudest voices in the room. It appears that even prominent left-leaning figures like Rahm Emanuel and Fareed Zakaria are finally waking up. Perhaps this is due to Trump, Bill Maher, or simply reality crashing down. Either way, it's a change we desperately needed because someone is finally expressing what the rest of us have been thinking all along.
If you look at Democratic states, you go to look at New York versus Florida, okay? Roughly the same population. The budget of New York State is twice that of Florida. What do they have? With streets paved with gold? I live in New York. I pay the highest taxes in New York. You get nothing for it. And I think that is the image people have of the Democratic Party. Lots of taxes, lots of regulation, but nothing gets done.
Bill Maher didn't just get them to reluctantly acknowledge that Trump was, in fact, doing something right. He went one step further and got them to turn against one another. It was like watching a political episode of Survivor where Rahm Emanuel and Fareed Zakaria pointed fingers at each other and, to a greater extent, their own party for the mess we've been living through, the exorbitant cost of living, endless red tape choking small businesses, inflation out of control, taxes that make you question your entire life, and so on. It was as though they suddenly realized, wait a minute, maybe we're the problem. After years of instructing everyone else on how to run the nation, the left is now devouring itself in a wonderful public show of sorrow and guilt, and to be honest, we're here for every second of it. This little collapse we watched is not just political theater, it's poetic justice. Get some popcorn, people, because you can tell the story is falling apart when even the people who created the mayhem begin to doubt the plan.
The point isn't the rules, the point is the results. And the party has gotten way too focused on what the rules are. And I do agree with you on this. We have made it impossible to function as a city or as a state.
So here's the million-dollar question: did Fareed Zakaria suddenly have an epiphany, or has he known all along, quietly nodding while Biden was still steering the ship? Because let's be real, for the past several years CNN has been ground zero for anti-Trump rhetoric. It wasn't just commentary, it was an orchestrated campaign, skewed panels, check echo chambers packed with Democrats, while the token Republican was there just for show. Absolutely, and let's not forget the so-called news reports that read more like hit pieces, casting Trump as the villain in every storyline. So now that Zakaria is having this very public moment of clarity, it makes you wonder, where was this energy when Biden was busy driving the country into a ditch? Was it professional loyalty, political pressure, or just strategic silence? Because either he's been willfully blind or conveniently mute, and neither choice flatters him. This sudden enlightenment might be timely, sure, but it also smells a little suspicious. Maybe the truth isn't setting him free, maybe it's just finally catching up with him.
Take an example of this example. Here, obviously in LA, it took a fire and a natural disaster to make you realize, you know what, that rule's not that important. In Pennsylvania, a bridge collapse, all of a sudden we go, well, that environmental rule is just not important. We got to build a bridge, it's much more important. And I think the Democratic Party should take a look at and say, we're going to be honest, like we did in 1994 with reinventing government. Everything is on the table, nothing is safe.
And that's exactly what many of us have been saying for years. The Democratic Party must give up on politics and get serious, which entails putting everything on the table, getting rid of the distractions and fluff, and especially getting rid of the policies that offend common sense if it hopes to make a genuine comeback that resonates with regular Americans. Endless pronoun arguments and performative action won't solve a dysfunctional system, and focusing only on ideological purity will not win back working-class voters while neglecting concerns that are discussed at the dinner table, such as job security and inflation, safety, education. Yes, if Democrats truly want to regain their relevance, they must abandon the echo chambers that use virtue signaling and concentrate on what matters to actual people. Common sense isn't partisan, it's just been absent from action for far too long. People are tired and want real results, Not more lectures.
Is you refrain from making any purchases, either in stores or online, to shun fast food, getting gas for a full day. I know. That look on your face says it all. You're right. It's so f***ing stupid.
When voices like Zakaria and Ram begin to split ranks, the left vehemently detested the reflection that Bill Maher ultimately merely held up. That's all for today, people. If you enjoyed it as much as we did, hit the like button and subscribe for more daring takes, real talk, and moments that make the mainstream sweat. The cracks aren't just visible, they're spreading quickly. If the Democrats are serious about a comeback, it will require truth over theater and a healthy dose of good old-fashioned common sense. We appreciate your time and we'll see you in the next clip.